In the peaceful village of Komuru, animals of all kinds lived happily together. The village was surrounded by lush green fields, where the animals worked hard every day to grow food. There were cows, rabbits, chickens, goats, and many more animals, all sharing the land and helping one another. Komuru was a place where everyone felt safe and life was full of joy. The animals loved their king, a wise and kind lion named King Rafan. He always listened to the villagers' problems and made sure everyone was treated fairly. Under his rule, Komuru was a village where kindness and hard work were the way of life. But one day everything changed. A strange animal named Lotty appeared in the village. Lotty was a huge, mean creature with sharp claws and a loud, booming voice. No one knew where he came from, but he caused trouble from the very first day. Lotty started by taking food from the fields. At first, the villagers thought he was just hungry and would leave after eating. But Lotty didn't leave. Instead, he began demanding more and more food. If anyone refused to give him what he wanted, Lotty would scare them by roaring loudly or knocking over their things. Some animals even got hurt when they tried to stand up to him. Days turned into weeks, and the villagers of Komuru grew more and more unhappy. They worked so hard on their farms, but Lotty would come and take what he wanted without asking. The animals tried to avoid him, but Lotty always found a way to take something. Even King Rafan couldn't stop him. One evening, King Rafan called a meeting in the big clearing in the center of the village. All the animals gathered, their faces full of worry. The king stood on a large rock and looked at his people. "My dear friends," King Rafan began, "Lotty has caused us great trouble. I have tried to talk to him, but he does not listen. We need someone brave to stand up to him and stop him from taking our food. Who among you will help us?" The animals looked at one another, but no one stepped forward. The strong animals, like the elephants and the bulls, shook their heads. "Lotty is too big and too dangerous," they said. "We cannot fight him." The king sighed deeply. It seemed like no one was willing to take the risk. Just as the meeting was about to end, a small voice piped up from the crowd. "I will fight Lotty." Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was Doja, a tiny mouse with bright, shining eyes. The other animals began to laugh. "You," said a big goat. "You're so small. How can you fight Lotty?" Doja stood tall, or as tall as a mouse could stand. "I may be small, but I'm smart," he said, "and I have a plan." The king looked at Doja thoughtfully. "Are you sure, little one? Lotty is very strong." "Yes, your majesty," Doja said firmly. "I will do my best to save our village." The king nodded. "Very well, Doja. If you are brave enough to try, we will all support you." Doja spent the next few days preparing for his plan. He watched Lotty carefully, learning his habits and figuring out what he liked and disliked. Then he gathered some tools and told the villagers to stay out of sight for a while. One sunny morning, Doja set his plan into action. He found Lotty lounging near the river, chewing on a large piece of sugar cane he had taken from the fields. Doja approached him boldly. "Hey, Lotty," Doja called out. "You think you're so big and strong, but I bet you can't catch me." Lotty opened one eye and snorted. "You? A tiny mouse? I could catch you with my eyes closed." "Prove it," Doja challenged, twitching his tail. "If you can catch me, I'll show you where the best food in the village is hidden." Lotty's ears perked up. He loved food more than anything. "Fine," he said, getting to his feet. "Get ready, little mouse. Here I come." Doja darted off, zigzagging through the fields and leading Lotty on a wild chase. Lotty was fast, but Doja was quicker and much smaller. He could slip through tiny spaces and hide in places Lotty couldn't reach. Lotty grew angrier and angrier as he tried to catch the clever mouse. Finally, Doja led Lotty to a large hole he had dug near the edge of the village. The hole was covered with sticks and leaves to hide it. Doja ran over the trap, and Lotty, too angry to notice, stomped right into it. With a loud thud, Lotty fell into the hole. He roared and tried to climb out, but the walls were too steep. Doja stood at the edge of the hole and looked down at him. "Let me out, you little pest," Lotty shouted. "Not until you promise to leave Komuru and never come back," Doja said firmly. Lotty growled but realized he had no choice. "Fine," he said, "I promise." The villagers, who had been watching from a distance, cheered loudly. They rushed forward to thank Doja for his bravery and cleverness. The king himself lifted the tiny mouse onto his paw and held him high. "Doja, you have saved Komuru," King Rafan said. "You are small, but your courage and wisdom are greater than any of us could have imagined. Lotty was allowed to leave the village, and true to his word, he never returned. Peace returned to Komuru, and the animals went back to their happy lives. Doja became a hero, and the villagers often told the story of how a tiny mouse had saved them all. From that day on, the animals of Komuru learned that even the smallest among them could make a big difference. And Doja, he continued to live happily in the village, always ready to help whenever he was needed.